Hello and welcome to Stampscaping 101. We have a piece of the holographic foil paper here. It's a half sheet, which is 5.5 by 8.5, half of 8.5 by 11. And I am getting myself set up here for using this type of paper in the manner that I'm going to use it, which is with the Brilliance inks. They can get pretty sloppy, greasy, with the oil-based component of these different types of inks. The Brilliance inks have a fast-drying component. Must be some kind of solvent or something like that. You might think of it like the stays-on ink of the pigment ink world. But these are much slower drying than something like a stays-on, okay? But they will dry on this type of paper, especially if you heat set it, but they will air dry overnight. For me, it's overnight. I don't know, it probably takes less time than that, but I don't check it every hour or something like that. All right, now this is something where I truly do not know what this is going to look like, what direction I'm going to be going in here, etc., okay? Now, here's my idea. I want to use some of these Stampbord components, material for this scene, okay, in kind of like a a spotlighting pop-up type of format like this. This is over a glossy stamp scene. Why don't we try to go extra dynamic with a holographic rainbow format here? Okay, so that being said, let's just get right into it. There's going to be a lot of ums, I think. I'm going to try to avoid saying that as much as possible, but I don't know where this one's going, so you're just seeing me, I don't know, with a lot of videos, just kind of hitting the record button and me just kind of playing around here. I tend to, I don't know, repeat myself a lot during these videos because, I don't know, I feel like I should be saying something. I feel like I'm kind of in a live demonstration when I'm doing these types of videos here, so I don't know. I'm having to make up things as I go along most of the time because a lot of it is just pure invention. Okay, now I'm using my cling foam set here, so I don't need the tack and peel part of this. So let's take this and put my protective plastic film over that, and I'll just use the back side of this. Okay, so what this is going to be is I just foresee this kind of an aisle type of setting here with maybe some sort of, I don't know, maybe like a sunset or something like that on the water with light coming through these aisles here. And what I'm thinking about doing is I'm thinking about putting like some little canoeist or something like here, or a boat, and putting that kind of down here. I'm not sure. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll use a moon or something like that. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Up here in the sky. I mean, I could go, with a very kind of structured pyramidal type of format here, very straight on, but I was thinking maybe I'd do something a little bit more kind of off-center. I don't know, a little bit more free-form. Okay, now these tiles right here. This is a 1 by 1 inch, 2 by 2, and I think this is a 1.5 by 1.5. It came in a sorted squares bag. I don't know what configuration they're coming in these days. They've changed it a little bit. So I don't know. Maybe we can do some kind of like triadic type of arrangement here with these, something like this. I don't know what this one's going to be. If this is like a sky element, maybe this will be that little subject matter in the water. But this one over here, I'm not sure what. I mean, we can do just 2 elements too, but I thought it would be kind of a little bit more interesting if we did 3. I don't know. Okay, so that being said, gosh, we'll see where this goes. a lot of things, you know, you don't have to have it kind of worked out. There's certain types of concepts and principles you can utilize, like all these disparate images like this. I think I could kind of unify them with similar types of kind of matting on these. When I do the whole thing, I can mat the whole thing in one type of color. Paper or type of paper, and you can unify things and bring a kind of a cohesiveness to even, I don't know, kind of a haphazard, you know, very unthought out, you know, composition or concept. You know, there you can do, I don't know, there's little tricks you can do just to I don't know, solve all of your, I don't know, kind of visual problems that might be occurring or that might be happening in that process. I'll show you when we get there. Okay. All right. So this is a very solid image right here, and what can happen with that, with pigment inks on a foil paper, something that's porous, is you get this fisheye like that. Okay. That doesn't happen on matte paper because the matte paper kind of absorbs your ink really fast. Okay, it grabs it. But this one right here, it can kind of fisheye like that, which is not a problem. So all you do is you just take a cotton ball, and where you miss, you don't need to restamp or anything like that with a positioner. I mean, you could, but what I do is I just fill it in like this with a cotton ball. Okay, or you can just keep that texture, you know, and utilize it like that. Okay. You don't have to be careful about it either, because we're going to be bringing in a lot of tones into here anyway. Okay. All right. Stamping on foil, I tell people it's the feeling isn't like this, but it's a lot more akin to maybe stamping on a piece of glass than it is like stamping on a piece of paper, just in terms of that non-porous aspect of it. Okay, you see all that ink down there, that's kind of wet. That's how my fingers get all kind of inky and wet. That's where I can hold on to this. Okay. Yeah, that's how I kind of clean my stamps. I will get around to cleaning it a little bit more thoroughly, though. Okay, now here's the thing. I would normally just work a composition out on here, but I'm kind of working around the idea of utilizing, you know, those boards in here. So I need to do, you know, kind of minimal planning. If this is going to be kind of the horizon out here, then, you know, I'll position my aisles, you know, a little bit lower. I don't think I want to have this moon going across my aisle, you know what I mean? I want it in the sky, so just plan out accordingly. You know, leave space for those types of components. Not that you have to. I mean, they could just go right over the top, and it could be just some kind of, you know, graphic, you know, type of statement. But I don't know. I'm going to try to incorporate them into, you know, the setting a little bit more than just being kind of superimposed over the top of it. All right, that is one aisle. Leave your room for your little canoeist or whatever if you're going to use that. Whatever, if I want to use this one up here. Composing. All right, just because I'm being a little bit lazy here, I'm just going to use the same one, which these designs are, you know, designed to do too, but I could switch out and go with a different one just for a little bit more variation, you know, over here. All right. if I'm not doing these videos, I, take a little bit more time to clean, I think. Immediately after using. Okay. Go with a smaller aisle for variation. Let's go out here on the in the distance. Smaller aisles can just be, more distant or whatever, or they could just be smaller. Okay, and just kind of play around with them. You're creating kind of this little inlet here, right? By kind of staggering them about like that. Kind of takes me back, to, we don't see this, well, I don't know, there's the Channel Islands in Santa Barbara, kind of near where I grew up, and, going to school in Los Angeles, you look out and you see, like, Catalina and things like that, but, oh, this, I don't know, seeing these things like this, it reminds me of, hiking out in Maine and Acadia National Park. One of my favorite kind of hiking, I don't know, whatever, outings that I've ever done. I love hiking and being outdoors, and I don't know, I have my favorite spots. I'm usually into kind of deserts more than anything. I don't, I like being kind of in nature, kind of away from the crowds, and a lot of times deserts are, they're not going to be as crowded as like a Yosemite or something like that. But that Acadia trip in full color in, I don't remember what month it was, August or something like that. Oh my gosh, spectacular. And talking for a national park, it was just so empty. Most of the trails I was on by myself, and there's not that many trails out there, relatively speaking. Okay, so let's get back to this. We have those aisles down there. Now they're just like floating, right, amongst this, background like this. So we need to fill it in, okay? I've inked up my cotton ball, my ink applicator. Now this is all really quite wet still. Maybe I should heat set it a little bit before I take this on. You can kind of approach things in a couple different ways. You can kind of leave it wet so that when you're kind of blending this in, you're utilizing some of the ink that's already on there. I tell you what, let's heat set it a little bit. This is really fast. Be careful with foils because, it is foil, and heating it up, you can affect the surface. I probably won't heat set it completely dry. I just want these to get set a little bit, okay? The Brilliance inks will allow you to do that. Heat set them. I could see when the ink was kind of drying, you can see this kind of change that happens. It tends to become a lot more flat looking as opposed to glossy. And of course this foil kind of starts to bow a little bit, so just be a little bit conscious of that when you're doing it. Alright, so let's start applying some ink here. Alright, now this is an oil-based ink. and it can get pretty sloppy. You know, it happens to me all the time on every one of those scenes that I work with. The heat setting, though, is really nice. That does work. I haven't always done that, but I'm finding, yeah, it's kind of nice having the imagery kind of set a little bit more. It's not completely dry, but it's pretty dry. All right, so when I'm applying this, I'm kind of anchoring my imagery onto the scene. You're giving them kind of a visual weight and opacity. You know, the paper is showing right through them, right? You know, even though they all are fairly solid, but when you do something like this, you're seeing that, okay, well, that image, you know, that structure there, that mass out there, and you know, the island, it's casting a shadow, right? So it just adds to that, I don't know, it gives it substance, you know. It's a substantial mass out there in the setting here. Okay, I flipped this upside down, just easier for me to see where I'm applying this ink. Sometimes if it's like this, see my hand's in the way and I can't see what's being done. Okay. A lot of people they never want to do that though. See, because it just feels strange for them to be working kind of in a strange way, you know, where they can't, you know, they're not thinking about the imagery right side up. And I think that's where a lot of the, I don't know, it's just a technique type of thing. You want to be able to see what you're doing, okay? A lot of people just can't see what they're doing. So they always tell me, oh, it's, you know, you make it look easy, or it's easier said than done. Well, it's easy to do if you kind of follow those steps that make it easy. And this is me telling myself this too, you know what I mean? I need to remind myself about all these different types of aspects too. And when you're applying this, a lot of people think, okay, well, you make that look easy, right? Because, and then what they're doing is they're going like this, and they're going, instead of applying, like, see, I'm kind of taking some of this ink off. I'm applying that. See how that's like a nice kind of feathered touch, right? See this? It's using the cotton ball for the properties that the cotton ball is perfect for, and that's a real soft application. But, hey, I get it, you know. Pigment inks are really thick, and I have to make my adjustments all the time too. So if I ink this up, and you just start going like this, well, what's harder to blend in, this or this? You know, this, of course, because it's very, you know, solid and juicy. It's like applying like a blob of ink, okay? But if you take this off and you go like this, now look at this right here. Look at that, you know, that ink application. It's much softer than, you know, thick blobs like that, right? So just apply accordingly. But most of the times when people do this, they go like this. I get it though. It's an uncomfortable thing. They can't see anything being applied, you know? So they're just not used to, you know, putting it on like that. Think of it like in terms of makeup or something like that. You know, I tell people, I don't apply makeup, but, you know, it's like applying a foundation, you know, if it was like a powder or something like that, that's what you want, right? You want this kind of gradual kind of buildup, right? As opposed to if someone was applying something like, I don't know what it would be. like a thick oil paint, to some, a face or something like that. We don't want that. We want it kind of, soft and airy. And it's easier to apply that way too, because we don't, it's faster because there's less kind of repair work to do. If it doesn't go on the way you want, you can always kind of readjust it. See, this will kind of, wipe right off. But there's less of that I need to do if I just don't do it to begin with. Now, I have to readjust and stuff. I need to go back in and tinker around with things, but I have to do that less, the less harsh my applications of ink are. Okay, so if they're kind of light, then I have light, blending work to do, to get things the way that I want to. And I mean, this is like I said, it's using kind of an oil-based ink medium. It's sloppy looking, believe me. Look at mine. I mean, it's like charcoal, or something like that. That's been, I don't know, kind of applied in kind of a nasty way. Okay, but this is just the first step. It's kind of putting the foundation coat. So this is where people always say it too. Oh, it just looks, you make it look so easy. They're not thinking about it in terms of the process. They're going like this and saying, this doesn't look like the finished piece that you came out with. Well, this doesn't look like the finished piece that I'm going to come out with either. It's just, it's like, don't judge something like if you've primered, you know, some kind of chair or something like that, and you haven't even applied the paints or stains and all that yet. Your finishing touches. You do things in stages. So this is all kind of one stage right here, okay? And then when I get to about the third stage or so of making my adjustments and whatnot, that's when it kind of comes together a little bit. So here's my second step. We've applied, now I'm going to remove, okay? So I'm going to have that moon or something like that over here in my sky, and it'll be shining down here in the water. Okay, so that being said, why don't I just do some of this first? Okay, I'm just going to go for these kind of streaky types of I don't know, formations in the sky. Striations kind of running across the sky. Kind of be careful around your tops of your aisles, because while they're a little bit heat set, you don't want to kind of just wipe them, and kind of smear them right off. Okay, this is where my post-it notes are coming in handy. Okay. See that right there? It's kind of like think about it like your kind of sketch in the sky. You're just kind of getting your preliminary kind of idea of, your sky up there. People aren't used to that either, at all. You're not used to, removing things or making adjustments with stamping. What happens with most stamping, okay, is that people stamp things out and then you color in, and then whatever you have along the way, that stays. Okay, it's never a circular process. It's not a forgiving process. Once you color something on matte paper or whatever, glossy paper, whatever, Copic markers, anything, if you color that object, that color, that's staying there. Now you might be able to get darker and blend some other colors on top of it, but for the most part that color is pretty set. But on something like this, after I lay it down, if I want to remove it, you know, it comes right off. Okay, so you're working with that kind of aspect of this on the foil, or adding things like white pigment ink into a, you know, glossy cardstock scene or something like that. You can add, but you can also remove it too, you know, before it kind of sets up. And that removal and addition and removal and addition, it's like adjusting, readjusting. Um, that's all kind of part of the strengths of certain types of mediums. And also, when I'm working kind of, you know, slowly and incrementally with lighter touches at first, and then kind of building it up, that's the other part that makes it easy, because it doesn't mean that it looks great every step of the way, but I don't get, you know, too many unexpected marks, because if I'm just doing that right there, it's not like I'm going to say, oh my god, I tapped black there, you know, because I had to do that 10 times for it to even show up. So it's not going to be like, oh my god, I didn't mean to apply that there. Or should I add some black there? Well, you're adding just a very small amount of it at any given time, and just building it up, and you get as much there as you want. And then if you don't like it, you can remove it too. So I don't know. It really amazes me how people think that this is kind of like a harder process, when you can apply and remove, and then you apply very slowly to get what you want, as opposed to having it in a marker form, and that is it. You know what I mean? But I do get it, though. It's harder in terms of the process, because everyone is so locked into technique, okay? And it's almost like it's been kind of I don't know, programmed in. Now that never happens if someone's like right in front of me and I'm showing them what to do, because when they go like this, I'll just say, okay, well, let me see how much you're using, and I'll say, take more ink off, and they'll go like this, and they'll take more ink off. I won't let them use too much ink, you know, if they're applying too much ink, you know, in my workshops. So I get them using the, you know, whatever amount, and then, you know, they just get into it, and it's, I don't know, everyone gets it, you know, right off the bat. But I have to stop them from doing things that they're used to doing that might be applicable to what they're doing, or they've done a lot of times, but might not be applicable. But it's usually just a minor adjustment, you know, instead of going with a, you know, super wet applicator, you go with a very dry applicator instead, you know, and don't re-ink quite as much. All right, so blabbing on and on. See what we're kind of getting at right there? But that's not what I want, though. But I've applied. Now watch this right down here in the water, okay? This is all kind of muddy and everything like that down there. Okay, so we got these striations kind of going on in the sky and water, okay? Now I'm going to move this in a direction where I can kind of easily drag some color off of this, okay? So see, I've applied from dark ink into the lighter area. So applying, tapping, tapping, tapping into the light, okay? With black. Tap, 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 you know, from dark to light, okay? But here's what we're going to do here. Now that when I'm removing the ink, you work from the inside out. So dark, outside in. Light is inside out, okay? And I'll show you why that is, okay? So I'm just going like this. See that? How it kind of blends that out like that, okay? And then you start in here. Sometimes you got to keep moving this because you're going to get ink on this, so go like this. And I'm barely touching it. It's just like I'm just touching it, okay? You're letting the cotton ball do the work. You don't need to press into it, okay? Now see how graceful that is out there now? Let's compare the right side the left side. I mean, the left side looks okay, but that looks better. Right there. Oops, you can't see because of the glare. Well, let's do it to this side. Now watch this. I did this way. See how my hand naturally moves? Now, if I have to do it up there, I could do this, okay? But why not just flip it around? See? Turn the card in a direction that's conducive to the mark that you're going after, okay? All right, so I'm just going like this. I'm just kind of barely touching it like that. So see, I'm getting my mark with several passes. It'd be a lot harder to do it in one pass. I guess you could, you know, if someone's like a calligrapher, you know, they can probably do this like really easy. I doubt if they'd even have to practice, you know, because that's their whole thing is kind of control of pressure and achieving gesture, like beautiful gesture with each stroke that they do. They're very conscious of, you know, kind of their hand pressure, wrist action, everything like that. Okay. Yeah, look at that sky. That sky's coming around pretty good. Okay. Look how smooth all those applications are. All right, now let's remind ourselves how that looked. That area up there looked like this, you know, but up there. See what I mean? Normally I'd have to go into this again and then kind of wipe it out again, but I think that looks pretty good. Just kind of one application. Okay, let me see if I can have the same amount of luck. I don't know if it's luck, but down here in the water. Okay. I'm learning this too. You know, I haven't been doing this so long. And in fact, I picked up my first piece of foil. When was it? December or something like that? I don't remember when, but all right, now see how this is still real muddy right here? Okay, here's where it looks like that. Okay, dragging it out. Here's what I'm learning. I think I'm using less pressure this time, and it's, you know, I'm just barely touching it. I think that's working really good. So learning all the time, too. See, I have to listen to myself when I'm mentioning this, you know, just kind of make it where you're doing it in several passes as opposed to less passes. And, you know, by and large, with a lot of things, technique-wise, it comes about easier and faster, okay? Now, when I first started doing this, I might have been trying to go with a harsher streak. So maybe that was the reason why I had to go back in and kind of redo things so many more times. So much easier this way. All right. Try to remove a little bit more down here. All right, now see, what I'm finding is I'm not removing too much in here because my cotton ball's getting, so I'm just kind of moving this and, you know, kind of pulling it out and reconfiguring to where I get a clean area and to give a little bit more light, I guess, in this area right here. Oh, one of the things I was doing too, that was pretty fun, was using a brush like this. God, there's a lot of atmosphere in this now. Okay, but you can use a brush like this, and if you want a little bit of extra texture, maybe, you know, just take a brush and, yeah, look at that. It looks a little bit more like water when you put these kind of striations in there, doesn't it? See those little brush strokes in there too. Look at this down here. I can, let's get into this area right here. It looks a little muddy. I might even be able to do some of that up in the sky. Let's get that little island right in there. Give that one a little bit of a kind of a stroke type of patterning too. Alright, now sometimes when I put those strokes in there, I'm kind of awkward with the brush. So what I do is I go back in, grab your cotton ball. I don't know if I'd re-ink it, but just use, see that amount right there. It's almost like dry brushing some of that in there. And then you go in, you can kind of soften, some of those kind of harsher, sharp lines a little bit. But you still have the lines, but they're just a little bit more mellow. And that's one of those things I kind of figured out. I think it was what the last foil scene was. I don't know. It was one of those. I had these brushes. I have all these brushes sitting on my desk. Let me see. I wonder if there's anything else I can use. I don't know. I have some softer brushes. Maybe we should give it a try sometime. I don't know, like something like this brush. I guess you can kind of go in here and do. Yeah, that's not too bad. Look at this right here in the sky. I don't know, I'm just doing that where I have a, just a little smudge of ink on the surface. This brush is a little bit stiffer than this one, because it's wider maybe. Oh, I know, this one's stiff because it was, it had some like paint in it that kind of dried. I probably haven't used this brush right here in, I don't know, 20 years. Who knows, maybe it's been 30. All right. Now let's cover it up with Stampbord. All right, so let's see. I don't know, maybe we'll go with a smaller one, like something like that. Or it could be a quote. I'm not sure. Like I said, we're having to kind of readjust here. I like that, though. Gosh. Just as a scene. But we are here to do the Stampbord. I don't know. Am I kind of crowbarring it into the scene now, if I do that? You can add it like that, like a moon. That looks too big now. I might have to go with a smaller one like this. And we'll put that right there. I don't know, I might be going for formal structure, like very, straight on. Like I said, we're going to have to play this by, 1, 2, 3. I think maybe I might do moon. What do you call it? Moon phases. I couldn't think of the word. 1, 2, 3 in the sky, with 3 of the. Do I have 3 of the 1.5 by 1.5s? I do. Okay. So, yeah, 3 moon phases, I think. Alright, now this is really wet here. I'll probably heat set this in a little bit. But this, I don't know, this is going to be like a 2-day thing, I think. I don't feel like doing this whole thing right now, but gosh, look at that foil there. Look at the different personalities of that surface. Right, look at that. I mean, that looks a lot different than this. Look at that moody type of surface like that. And then, I don't know. That stuff is really dynamic. Okay, so moon phases. Let me go grab those stamps. Alright, I have these moon phases. These ones are pretty small for this piece, but I think that'll work out just fine. Okay, let me see. This one is, it's off the nature sheet number 22, I think it is. And I have a full moon here. Let's do it in dye-based ink, I think. I mean, we could stamp it out in... we could stamp it out in pigment ink. Think of the word one of these days. Alright, I'm just going to try and center this. Alright. That one wasn't great. But here's a gibbous moon, okay. Alright, let me try to center this a little bit better. It just occurred to me, a lot of people say that I make things look easy. And I think part of the reason is probably because if I mess up on something, you know, like these aren't centered at all. If I mess up on something, I don't care. You know, I think other people do, you know. Okay, here we go. Alright, I don't know why I stamped that one out much darker on that one. So be it. See, that's one of those things. They're off center, and I don't know. I didn't ink up enough, you know, with all those. Okay, so this is... I was going to go... I could have stamped this out twice, and I could go with this here and this here on this side. But I think I'm going to go something like this, you know, like crescent, half and full, or something like that. Like this. I don't know. Maybe we're making some kind of a statement, a visual statement about, I don't know, time or something like that in this, you know, piece here. Okay, so these, I don't want them just, you know, like that color. But, you know, when we're working with colors like this, I guess I can use the pigment ink around this. When we're working with colors like this on this foil, I don't like to introduce too many other colors into it. I mean, you can try it, but I usually go fairly minimal. I don't know, maybe I should use some dye-based ink. And actually, I think the pigment ink might be richer looking for these tiles here, so let me just go with this. I'll probably bring in some kind of color. So I'm probably using the wrong methodology here. I should go with some dye-based inks around this first, or on it first, because you know, you can layer dye-based ink under oil-based ink better than trying to put water on top of oil, right? But let's just do it like this. See this how you're just kind of building it up like that? Now, I am using, a pretty dry cotton ball. There's not a lot of ink on here, okay? So, I'm getting this application of the ink with repetition. Alright, I'm not getting blobs. I am getting a little bit of specks here and there, because I keep rolling it up on the top portion of that where there's more ink. And my fingers kind of giving a little bit of a, I don't know, texture, I guess, too. But so be it. Everyone wants, like, absolutely smooth, uniform, kind of like mechanically made applications of ink, of media in general. Um, Marker things. I don't want any streaks at all, you know what I mean? Or I don't want any, kind of a hint that has been made by hand or something like that. Which, you could be going for something like that, but I wouldn't do that all the time. I mean, the kind of the spirit of doing things by hand is having it look in the end as though it was made by a person as opposed to a machine, like it was printed. And I get it though. I mean, one of the compliments that people like getting, when they first start doing cards or something like that, is, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you made it. It looks store bought." You know what I mean? And that's like a compliment. And what I get it, because that, in one way it means that it has been like professionally made, which is a good thing. But I wouldn't take it so far as, you know, it doesn't look like it's been made by the hand of someone at all, because that's the art aspect of it, art, painting, brushstrokes, um, texture. That really kind of gives it a piece, like a real human touch, and it's less sterile than like a mechanically produced application of ink and media or whatnot. Um, so retain some of that quality. You can have both, though. Maybe it looks like super smooth in some areas, but in other areas, you get the quality and gesture of something. Can you imagine, someone like a calligrapher or something like that saying, hearing, "Oh my gosh, that looks like it was, you wouldn't even know that you did that by hand. It looks like like a computer font or something like that." That it's not really in the spirit that someone wants to, kind of work towards. It looks like a font, you know what I mean, or something like that. That you just kind of bring up on your computer. All right, so we're kind of adding these in like that. It looks like these little, I don't know, like eclipses or something like that, doesn't it? I'm going to add some color to them, I think. I'm not sure. We'll see how this goes. Maybe it looks better just black and white like that, with all that color in the background. Oh, I think I'll know what I'll do. I think I might just give them kind of a silver edge or something like that. If it was real light in the background, I'd put maybe a black on the edge. But if it's real silvery, maybe I'll go with or darker, maybe I'll go with the silver again. I like how this pigmenting goes on this board. It goes on pretty nicely. It's really quite dense and thick. You know what I mean? There's a lot of real opacity using pigment ink as opposed to dye-based inks. It just gets darker. Pigment inks are just so much thicker than dye-based inks. Dye-based inks work by staining, getting absorbed into the surface and staining them. But the pigment inks are real surface-oriented, so you get a lot more of the media building up on the surface of the, whatever surface you're using. Okay, so there's something like this. Okay. This one looks a little bit lacking, I guess, with the border. Let's go a little bit thicker. It's kind of funny, each one of these tiles, I kind of move from one to the next, so each one of them looks like it, quite different. Maybe I should have worked on them all at kind of the same time to give them a little bit more continuity. See, I don't even, I'm changing my kind of touch with each tile, even from one to the next. So, learning, all the time. All right. That took a while to kind of build up there for 3 little pieces like that. Okay, so it'll be like this. All right. Now. Okay, it'll be like that. I don't want to put these down on here to test out what they're going to look like. And also, this isn't totally indicative of what they'll look like when I'm done with this, because I'll probably matte these, and there'll be that matting part of it right on here. So I'm trying to decide. See, these ones out here are going over dark areas, so I'll probably have silver on the edge. So what I might want to do is and this one right here is going to be dark on light, so maybe I should give a silver edge to this one and a black paper mat around that one. I usually wouldn't do something like that, but just in terms of kind of that visual statement, I think I want to do that. All right, so I don't know. Let's try something different here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two right here, and I'm going to I'm going to black out, these boards on the side. See that side right there? It's just kind of raw wood, right? So I'm going to take this, kind of slide it a little bit. I feel that it kind of fills in a little bit faster, because there is texture to the edges here. All right, this is where I'm going to get my fingers all inky. They already are. Okay. This is like a blackout tile. Okay. And let's see this one right here. Got to make sure that you keep these ones straight, I don't know if I wanted to change the color of that center one. It just doesn't seem, it kind of goes against my, I don't know, my principles or something to do that one different. Okay, so what I'm thinking about doing is going silver on the edge, and then black. Okay, I'm going to do that. That was my kind of first instinct. Okay, I'm going to try to trust that. And if it doesn't work out, I'll just try to force it. You know, force it visually. That's one of my points here too, is that you can kind of just do certain things to to try and kind of force something to work, which you can do. It's totally possible. Okay, so this is, I'm usually doing this with dye-based ink. So I got to be careful here that I don't get some of this black pigment ink into my silver, although it won't affect it too much. But okay, kind of squishing this into there to get some of that silver to go on the front of my tile as well. Maybe I can angle it as well, so I get a little of that silver right here in front. So you can see that little silver edge there. See that right there? Okay. This kind of happened, by accident one of these times when I was doing this. It's like, oh, I got, some of that in the front of it. But hey, it works pretty good. It wasn't necessarily silver. I don't know what color we were going with back when, but it might have been gold or, I don't know, some kind of metallics. They say that kind of nice framing around it. All right, so there's that silver there. That'll be my centerpiece, like so. And I'm going to let all these things dry overnight on their own, and that'll give me a time to kind of think things through. Not that I'm going to be thinking about it a lot, but yeah, I think these things will be kind of interesting up here in this setting. And I'm trying to decide if I want that little canoeist down here or something like that. It could be a sailboat or something like that too. 3 things up there and 1 down here, maybe. I don't know. 2 to be decided later. But look at my fingers right here. Time to wash off and just get that scrubbed off. All right, I'm back. This is the next morning. The inks are, let's see, they are pretty dry. They might be a little bit damp still. It hasn't been 24 hours or anything like that, but I have some little steps to do on all of my pieces. I was kind of composing, I don't know, just rough ideas on how to finish this piece off. I have a fiber brush here, and I thought I would do some subtractive marks on these pieces. I thought we can give it a little bit of a dynamic kind of glow to these. So this is fiberglass hairs. If you haven't seen the previous video, you can see this kind of extends and retracts like that. You only want to have it out a tiny bit, about like so. Those are fiberglass hairs that are all tightly bound, so if you extend them too far and you're using it, those will just break and snap off. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do some marks starting from the inside and kind of in a little wiping motion. Almost like an eraser. I'm just starting from the inside and working my way out. To get kind of a visible mark, you have to kind of go over it a few times. And again, what you do is you just kind of go with a real light touch and do your marks in repetition so that you get the mark you want through repetition, as opposed to something too sudden and instantaneous. There's something to be said for being kind of spontaneous and instantaneous, but there's a little bit more of a kind of a precarious nature to that. I would say get used to the tool and the surface that you're doing your marks on first before you go and do things too quickly. Okay. get something that you don't like, you can always just reapply the ink. But, you know, in order to not have to do that, there's less chance of you having to do that if you just kind of do things in multiples and repetitively, you know, through, you know, kind of a little bit more careful marks. Now, you don't have to be so careful, though. And that's the entire point of anything that I do. I just don't do kind of vast, you know, kind of swing for the fences applications of any media. It's all just kind of a slow, careful thing. It doesn't take, you know, something like it must take a lot of you know, precision or anything like that, or experience. It doesn't take experience for me to go like this. I mean, people can do that in their first time, but if you go like, you know, like that, and you get something, you know, a deep gouge or something like that, you know, then that's going to show accordingly. Okay, so that's what we get like that. See how fun that is? I think anyone can go like this, right? But you just, you know, everyone, sometimes people tell me, oh, they have a heavy hand. Well, use less pressure, you know, just touch it. I mean, I think people can kind of go like this. You don't like pet, you know, if you're petting a hamster or something like that, you know, with this brush, you know, think of it like you're combing like the hair of a little mouse or something like that, a pet mouse, okay? You know, that's, I don't know anyone that's ever done that, you know. Maybe you know, when you have kids, you had a hamster or something like that. You don't, you know, use like extreme pressure on it or something like that. Okay, so going like this, I kind of want to make sure that I don't um, remove that silver kind of framing on there. But again, if I do, you just reapply it. Okay. On this one right here, I feel it's a little bit different. The removal, there must be less ink on this one than on this one. Because even just a few little strokes of this, and I'm getting down to the white of the board in the darker areas. So, you know, just don't, you know, scratch as much off, you know, that. But you can just watch things develop. You can always just go like that. If you like it, go more. If you need more, go more. All right. So there we have that. Second one, okay. There we go. It looks different from this one to this one, doesn't it? You know, my marks. This one's a little bit softer. So like I said, it's not like I do this all the time, and so from one tile to the next, it looks a little bit different. So, you know, I'm not like a, you know, habitual scratcher, you know, or whatever, ink scratcher. You just kind of follow the same kind of concept and technique, methodology, whatever. Okay, now this one, the ink has been applied thicker, so kind of getting into here, I have to kind of go with a few more swipes, or a lot more swipes, actually, in order to get that mark. And see what I'm doing here? I'm spinning my tile as opposed to kind of moving my hand around like this, you know, and doing it this way. Just kind of use your offhand to get your mark that you intend. When I start doing kind of live online workshops, I think these Claybord tiles or Stampbord is one of the ones that I'll do. I used to teach Stampbord. Stampscaping 103. There was 101, 102, and 103. 103 was Stampbord. And what we did was we incorporated the things that we learned in 101 and 102, but we just did it on the boards where we can do these subtractive types of marks. So it added a kind of an extra dynamic kind of ability to the ink layering and I don't know, strategic usage of color types of things that we learned in 101 and 102. Okay, so that's what we have here. Okay, let's see where it goes. It goes like this, this, and this. It's interesting here with the one with the silver border. That almost seems raised to me a little bit, yeah, higher up than these two right here, just because of that little simple silver border on it. But that's what we're going for. We're going for a little bit of difference between the two of them. I was thinking about that last night. I thought, okay, I think that's going to work really well, having kind of that different matting on the center one. It should be kind of interesting. So let's take a look at that again. I'm going to spray seal everything, just so that when I start working with this piece, I don't start scratching off some inks. It becomes very fragile in terms of, you know, you can do some scratching on this surface right here too. I was thinking, like I can take, I don't know, whatever, it might even be like the toothbrush. You might even be able to scratch in kind of some subtractive marks into the black pigment ink on here. Yeah, see these fine lines right there? That's just using a toothbrush. Like that. And that looks pretty good, actually. Or this brush like this. Oh my gosh, yeah. See that? This ink, even if I heat set this too, I'd be able to do this. Because this non-porous surface really, none of the ink can really grab the surface very well. So it leaves it kind of exposed to, I don't know, whatever influence, from scratching and whatnot. It's just kind of sitting on the surface. But if you spray seal these things, it'll seal it off really nice, and it'll protect it. Spray sealing, Krylon Crystal Clear, Krylon UV, workable fixatives from various different companies, including Krylon. Maybe a polyurethane. It's a little bit thick, but you can use something like that. I don't know, yeah, maybe about hairspray or something like that. I always tell people, if you don't have certain things on hand, we've used hairsprays in the past for things like the boards. I was thinking hairspray over something like that. If it's a scented hairspray, it'll give it kind of a certain scent, so I don't know if you want that, but I don't know. It might be interesting too. All right, I think I'm going to spray seal these, and again, here's that. It's kind of interesting. Oh, I have this smaller piece down here. I think this would look pretty good down here. I can also do some kind of quote or something like that, but I think I'll go with a little feature on this one. I think a little canoeist or something like that. I do have the little sailboat. It's a tiny sailboat that can be used on this as well. Maybe I'll go with that. That little tiny sailboat like that. I don't know if you can see that. It would be really tiny, but I don't know, maybe it would make it maybe it would be in proportion, maybe with the surrounding imagery to do this one. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's match the other imagery, the moons and such. Let me see, the moons and stuff. I did that in a dye-based ink. Okay, so I'll go with that. Like so. Alright. And let's do that little perimeter. I guess you don't have to do exactly the same thing as you did with the moons, but I don't know. Again, for kind of visual continuity, maybe we should do that. So let's take our Brilliance ink like so. I'll use my cotton ball from last night, and let's bring that into this. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll do little striations across this black ink, like it's like water or something like that, like ripples. I might even be able to use the water pattern stamp in here. It wouldn't match what's kind of down here in this water area here, but it might be okay. Oh, another thing that I could have done too. See, I didn't even think about it. Developing techniques right here. But when this ink was wet over here, I could have taken my water pattern stamp and stamped it in there to lift, you know, the ink off in that water pattern texture pattern. And that might have been interesting too. You can't lift off the boards like this because the boards are very porous. That clay, okay? So it's not like a sealed type of foil. So remember, just to keep in mind the different types of surfaces that you're working with, and think about the properties of them. You don't have to know everything about every type of surface, but you know, just in general, if you think about something like foil, it is like foil. So think about something like aluminum foil and stamping on that. It's not too much different in terms of the metallic type of property of them and the non-porous nature of it. Clay like this is not a ceramic type of clay, but it's more along the lines of the clay of scratchboard. So think about, you know, the ability to scratch things off on it, the absorbent nature. A lot of you haven't worked with scratchboard or something like that, or people that have might have done it kind of in that style where it's black and then you can scratch back into it and it reveals white. Well, that's just kind of like an India ink surface or something like that applied over the top of the workable clay surface. All right, so we have our little sailboat here. I kind of brought that color in a little bit closer because I plan on removing it. So let's heat set this a little bit. Okay, because again, it's, you know, that oil-based medium, and it is a little bit moist on here. I could probably scratch back on it, but it'd be like scratching. It might get kind of muddled up in like the fibers of the hairs or something like that if it isn't dry. Move that around a little bit because it occurred to me when I stay in one place, it's like my paper really starts buckling up and it goes through like several layers of my kind of blotter paper that I use. So, all right, so let's do some of those little subtractive marks on this one. Okay. The fiber brush gives a real kind of soft removal of ink. I'm going to go horizontal like this and not kind of flared out like that. This isn't really a light source, so this is just going to represent this little boat on the water's surface. So I'm going as if the this black behind the boat is water. You know, this little kind of framing vignette, I should say. This So this area right here where I applied a little bit too much, it's, you know, I'm going to have to scrape into that a lot in order for anything to show. So I might move over to my scratch knife. Alright. I don't know how many little kind of swipes I've done on this. It might be 100 by now, you know, so you just kind of extend your process out again in all steps. You know, in order to kind of move towards that look that you're going after. And avoiding, too. I mean, equally as important, avoiding the marks that you don't want, you know, that you don't desire. Okay, this is the scratch knife. Different tools for different kind of marks. All right, there we go. If it starts to look a little bit too scratchy, just take your black and apply it right back over that. Let's see what that looks like here. Let me just kind of mute some of those lines around the perimeter. The lines, the white lines, become kind of gray lines because you're applying a little bit less. Or you're not applying less, you're subduing those lines, making the lines a little bit more gray. All right, so yeah, that looks pretty good. And you can do that, you know, with all these different types of marks on this one. I have some kind of like blob of little ink or something on this one. Get through that there. All right. I think spraying time for these. Now, I was thinking about applying some color to these, you know, like a little tint of something, but I think we're going to leave the color for this, you know. The holographic paper is so dynamic with all that color. I just, yeah, I don't feel like overdoing it with color on these, you know, because this is, it's hard to come up with a color on these two that's going to match this because there's nothing to match. It's like every color in the rainbow on there. So I think I'm just going to keep these neutral like that. I mean, maybe there's a, you know, you can hit it with like a distress ink or something like that, like a brown or something like that, which isn't in, you know, that range right there so much. I mean, you can, yeah, I guess you can kind of, that looks a little bit brownish, but all right, let's just keep things neutral with that. So I'm going to spray everything. I'm going to spray this and the 4 tiles. All right, I am back from, let me see, spray sealing and mounting these pieces. Let's take a look and see what the spray sealing did with these pieces. Okay, you can see how they have that nice satiny finish to them. I could spray them with a polyurethane or a thicker type of spray, or potentially give these an extra coat with the Krylon UV-Resistant spray to give them an even glossier look. But look how beautiful these tiles can look when you spray them. I always feel that they look like they reminded me of ceramics, like glazed fired tiles or something like that, or ceramics, I should say. All right, here's the small piece here. One of the things I forgot to do after I colored this one and scratched it out was I forgot to give it that border. Okay, so I've done the bordering in silver and kind of that little framing type of thing by I don't know, over applying the silver ink. And then I've mounted it here onto a kind of an iridescent black. Okay, and that's the same thing with this piece. I already kind of mounted it here, but the black is, you can use a matte or something like that if you wanted to do that or whatnot, but I thought that looked pretty good like that. And this one right here, I've mounted it on a silver, kind of iridescent, like a Stardream Silver. Okay, and I'm ready to mount that now too. But okay, so these perimeter ones are the black edge mounted on to the Stardream Silver. Okay, I don't know, just the Stardream Silver I thought gave it a little bit of personality, but looked fairly neutral on there, especially in comparison to the holographic. Okay, now here's my plan. I plan to space these out roughly about like that. I'll give it about an equal amount of spacing right here and here and here to here. Okay. I didn't really measure it. I did find the center for the center tile, but I don't know, a lot of it is eyeballing. Okay. And this will be directly underneath that center piece right there, so we'll have that right about like so. And these are just photo squares that I'm using. Okay. They're also called mounting squares or whatnot, but I don't know. Once you get them on, they really stick. So I wouldn't call them repositionable. I guess if you just kind of lay it down like that and don't press into them, you can kind of reposition them a little bit, but kind of get them where you want to go, be fairly decisive about that. Okay, see, I can kind of move this around and get the angle right. This camera's right in front of my face, so sometimes when I'm doing these videos, I don't get it kind of straight. Okay. And I'll have that little crater type of thing going down. I think that looks the best. And let's see if I can get this one about even. I'm going over the top of that island right here, especially with the that mounting paper, matting, whatever, framing on there. All right, is that? Oops, see, I'm moving this stuff around. Ah, my gosh. All right, looks okay there. This one just, well, okay. On this one right here, I thought I just used one, but I used two. Might as well at this point in time. And we'll just go about like so. All right, let's take a look and see how this is coming together. Okay. Oh, by the way, see the spraying on this too? The spraying of the Krylon over the iridescent. I mean, the holographic foil looks pretty good. It really seals it in really nicely. Yeah. Okay, so I thought this looked pretty good, but I think we could use like a double matte. I tried it on black out here, but I thought, nah, we need some color. Okay. So usually what I do is this inner matte, I usually could try to go at least double the size of that. That doesn't look so good, huh? Let's go about, I don't know, triple maybe in terms of thickness, border width. I think that right there, huh? Okay. Not this, I'll trim that down, but all right, we have a lot of mounting squares on this one. I usually don't use so many, but I figured, okay, this piece is a little bit more in depth, and plus these squares cost I don't know. It's really inexpensive, and that roll usually has about 1,000 of them, so not expensive at all. But this piece right here, I think it has kind of a, pretty um, rich appearance to it, with the foil. The foil's like super cheap, and these tiles right here, they're, those multi-packs, they're pretty inexpensive too. But you can come up with I think, a pretty grand looking format. You can use whatever type of subject matter you want. Of course, I'm using Stampscapes, but let's see. Let's make it a little bit. I don't want a huge, huge card, but we'll make it fairly large. Okay, here we go. And I'll just see what, roughly about what I did. It's about 5/8, roughly about 5/8 of a border. So what I do is I'll put a little hole here at 5/8. I'll pinprick if I could see it, and here I'll go for 5/8 like that. And then I just match up oops, I have 2 pieces of Stardream underneath this. My Stardream right here is a text weight. It would be better, for this purpose at least, to be using cover weight, but I don't have Lapis Lazuli in cover weight, so I'm just going with the text. I lost my little hole down here. Let's see. Okay, there we go. And here I need to cut this off screen here. Now here's the thing that you really have a choice about. I have this larger piece down here, and one of those other options would be to put a little bit of like a quote stamp down here, and you can frame that off like so, and that would be kind of interesting down here. A word stamp, maybe something about time or something of that sort would be kind of interesting. Or I can just, trim it off like that. I think I'm going to do that. It's kind of flappy down here, and I think if I went with the word thing down here, I'd frame this off again in a cover stock. Thick paper, so let's go with, I tell you what, down here, let's see, 5/8. I'm going to eyeball this, okay? That would be about 5/8 like that. I'm going to go down a little bit more. I give this bottom part of the frame a little bit more space, so I'll go like right here, put a little bit of a hole right there, and another one down here. Okay, so I see my little not registration lines, but I don't know, whatever, cut lines or whatever. Cut points, trim points. Okay, that's the Lapis Lazuli. Look at that. You can use those for bookmarks if you want to. Alright, let's get things tidied up here. It gets to be a pretty sloppy affair when you're using all those pigmentings like this, But in the end, I think worth it. Plus, it's kind of fun. You have to kind of embrace the, that, I don't know, oily, wet pigment ink that you're working with, and as you're applying it, it's kind of getting kind of sloppy and wet. Remember, the subtractive process is part of the process, to me at least. And then you go in there and you remove a little bit, and I don't know. For me, I had to get in the spirit of that too, because it's like my fingers are inky, the back of my fingers, sometimes underneath my fingernails. That I don't know. You just have to you embrace it. Okay, so let's take a look here and see what this is. Okay. All right, so see right in here, I did the instead of going with the silver, I don't think that silver would really show up as much, you know. And I think these are fairly integrated. I don't think having these two in the lighter areas of the piece, you know, with the black, I still think they look, you know, pretty related. This is a silver border, and so is this, you know, around on the tile itself, right? And same thing down here. Look at that raised, how that looks there. See how these look? Don't they? I mean, this looks like a little piece. Let's say if you hung this or something like that. It's a piece in itself, right? But then this kind of gallery within a gallery, okay, are these ones. And it looks like, you know, it's kind of like these three, I don't know, wall hangers or canvases, let's say. You know, they're not canvases, but they're almost like a separate entity kind of, you know, worked within there. And of course, we have the dynamics of the holographic paper, but and then this blue, I think this blue helped. I mean, the blue is related. You can see that kind of blue here, you know, if you turn it a certain way. So you could have used anything. I mean, even if we went like a hot red or something like that around on the perimeter, it would be really quite loud. But I think any color could work out here because all the colors are, you know, pretty much in there. Or, like I said before, if you wanted to go with like a tan, well, I don't know, I guess that is in there a little bit. But you can go with something kind of neutral out there. And I don't know, if you want a little bit of an extra little something to it, you know, there's that, you know, the holographic nature of that. Look at that. I think my hands are sweaty or something like that from holding that. But I don't know, a fun piece. Now, if I look at this close, okay, it's kind of sloppy. I have these little scratches and smudgy marks everywhere, okay? Like that. You can see those little, you know, here's, I don't know, I should re-ink that right there a little bit, but um, it looks a little bit sloppy, and so be it to me. But on the overall, when you look at it as a whole, you know what I mean? There's a lot of things that kind of, oops, I need something else to apply that and cover that little hole up there. Looking for my Q-tips. I don't see them anywhere. Anyways, I'll get to that, but everything on the whole, see, you bring these kind of neutral, well, not neutral, but similar things, like that silver frame, right? So it's here, here, you know, it's down here on this little tiny thing, and then right here. And that's the thing that brings it all together. It's the needle and thread that's bringing all these separate elements together. And the holographic paper itself almost looks kind of silvery, except for when it has that light shining on it. Let me see if I can get it. It's hard to show you the silver. Okay, like right here, see that? That is kind of silver in itself. Now I have all my studio lights in here kind of, you know, shining on the piece, so you're getting all the color right here, but all these different elements have something that kind of relate to each other. Maybe the Stardream is kind of the thing that sets it apart, but that having kind of that neutrality out there kind of helps. I don't think going with, you know, this out here. See, if I went with something like this on the outside, I mean, that looks kind of cool too. But it detracts from this. I think having this just like that, I don't know, kind of finishes it off nicely. I just found my Q-tips here for a little touch-up work. Okay. Let me get in right here. Can you see that right there? So I have a couple little nicks and scratches here and there. But again, you know, this I don't know, there's little kind of like sloppy bits here and there. But overall, I don't think it detracts from the overall. The holographic papers are just, they're loud enough to where all my little smudgies and things like that, just don't seem to matter in the end, I don't think. It doesn't detract from the overall, or I don't know, whatever the overall visual statement there. So, all right, so anyways, I hope you enjoyed this one. I don't know, I don't do kind of formatting into cards often enough, but I really should, because this looks a whole lot better than just kind of doing the card itself and kind of leaving it at that. Kind of getting things formatted really kind of finishes it off and kind of gives you a better idea of, kind of the end result potential and whatnot. So I didn't use any white pigment ink in there for kind of fogging and whatnot, but I don't think it needed it in this one. Okay, so if you like this video, hope you hit the thumbs up, make a comment or whatnot. If you have any questions, drop me a note. And thanks as always for tuning into the channel, especially if you made it this far in this video. All right, until the next one.